Welcome to another edition of Diaspora Weekly. My name is Jermaine Nkrumah, right here at DNT. As those of you who have been watching us, you notice that every time I have two guests with me. Today I have one, and there's a reason for that. Dr. Somuah, Dr. Sam Somuah is the Chief Executive of Cisco Information System and Westlake Capital. That's just two of the many businesses that he has. Doctor, welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Very good.
Nice to be here.
Very good. We're going to go on a commercial break. When we come back, we're going to dive into Dr. Somuah and what he has that makes me call him one of the group that I call the silent majority when we talk about the diaspora. You'll hear more about it when we return. Stay tuned.
Hello, this is Nanansa, and you're watching Homeland, the Story of the Returnee, where we dive into the perspective of the diaspora in and out of Ghana. It's fun, engaging, and motivational.
I think Ghana is a wonderful place. I love Ghana. I truly do.
We need our diasporans for our country to develop to where it should be.
Hey! Come on, turn around. Turn around, let me see.
Make a date with me right here on DNT every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Homeland. Brain drain, brain gain.
Every weekday at 12 and 5 p.m., DNT Newsroom brings you the most topical, fact-based, and up-to-date news from Ghana and around the world.
Politics, business, sports, and news from the diaspora, all covered in this comprehensive news update.
If it matters, DNT Newsroom will have it covered.
DNT News, be informed.
Welcome back to Diaspora Weekly. This segment, this episode is called The Silent Majority. Why do I call it silent majority? Because majority of the time when Ghanaians from abroad come back home, the feeling among those at home is, oh, they're coming to take our jobs, they're coming to do this. But you know what? There's a vast majority who don't care about jobs. They come to do their own thing. And with me today, I have Dr. Sam Somuah, who did just that. He's in Ghana and he's doing his own thing. Doctor, welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Very good. Where did you go I know you came from abroad, but where did you go?
Well, let me start by saying thanking you for the privilege and opportunity to be on this program. I've been reading about DNT, and I think you're doing a fantastic job.
Thank you.
By giving a voice to Ghanaians who have lived in the diaspora. Some are already here, and some are planning to come back. And I think this is an excellent opportunity for them to learn maybe from those who have already been back, so that they can make their plans even as they try to come back. Well, not too long ago, I finished college at the Kwame Nkrumah University. Those days it was UST.
UST, yeah.
We used to call it Tech. And then I did my national service, and then after national service, I left to go to the US.
So you were one of the good guys. Many people, as soon as they finish,
No,
they can't.
I did my national service
Okay.
on campus as a TA, a teaching assistant.
Okay.
And then after that, I went to Ohio State. So I went to Ohio State University in Columbus, Ohio.
You're a Buckeye.
I'm a Buckeye. I'm a Buckeye. Before I went to Columbus,
wait.
Before
Viewers.
I went to Columbus, I didn't know much about American football. But of course, you can't. Columbus, we eat and drink football.
Yes.
I mean, on the days that
Not the one we play with our foot, though.
Oh, of course. Not soccer. I mean,
well, just in case, no, I'm not going to let you get away with. Look, if you're watching, when we say Buckeye in America, these are the. I'll let you talk about.
The Big Ten. I mean, we are in the Big Ten and we dominate. We've won so many NCCA champions. We usually go to the Rose Bowl. And, you know,
the Wolverines will have something to say about
it. Of course. Michigan, if the Blue Michigans are here, they might want to say their own story. But since I'm here, I'm going to tell my story.
Okay. All right, I got you. Go ahead.
Yeah, Ohio State is really big for football. Tailgate parties before the game and that kind of stuff. So once you live in Columbus, Ohio, I mean, you're going to be immersed in it. I mean, the whole town is football.
Yeah.
You know, and Ohio State, we had pretty good teams. You know, in those days, good quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And,
a lot of high school kids want to go to Ohio State.
Of course.
Yeah, very good.
We had pretty good coaches also.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we're also pretty good in basketball.
Yeah.
But
you know, one thing, Columbus, Ohio, I once had a friend who, the first time I heard about Columbus, Ohio, I was back in my DJ days, and there was this guy, for some reason I remember his name, Zachary. He was from Columbus, Ohio.
Okay.
And he told me at the time that that's one of the roughest cities in America at the time. I don't know, what's the city like?
Oh, well, Columbus is the capital city of Ohio. But Cleveland and Cincinnati are much more famous because they are much bigger.
Right.
And they have bigger NFL teams and all that. Columbus, we've never had an NFL team.
You don't need one.
We don't need one. I mean, for Ohio State, we got all the football with it.
That's right. That's right.
For Ohio State, we got all the football with it. So, but from my perspective, I mean, it's relative. I mean, I remember when the first time I went to New York City as a student, I mean, I was amazed because, I mean, if Columbus was rough, I don't know what you're going to say about New York City.
Exactly.
I mean, the first I went to Manhattan, Manhattan and all that, it was really crazy.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, Columbus, we got traffic.
Yeah.
But nothing like what they have in downtown Manhattan.
So what did you gather in Ohio? Because you hear people, everybody, and even here in Ghana, people say, when you hear them, they went to United States, they talk about Washington, they talk about New York. You rarely hear about Columbus, Ohio.
Well, I mean, in our days, Columbus was not too much on the map. But if you're talking about 2019, Columbus is pretty much on the map, especially for Ghanaians. Because right now, you got a fairly sizable number of Ghanaians with lots of Ghanaian churches, really big ones. Lots of Ghanaian shops, Ghanaian lawyers, all kinds of Ghanaian doctors. But in our days, most of us there were there for school.
Yeah.
So we just focus on school and academics.
Okay.
But right now, you've got a small proportion of Ghanaians there who are just working.
Okay.
But of course, I went to Columbus for education. So
right.
I managed to finish my master's in engineering.
Okay.
And then I went on to do a PhD in engineering. And then I went on to do a postdoc all at Ohio State.
Right.
So I was in the area of material science.
Okay.
So I was looking at materials for all kinds of things. But
why IT? How did you get into IT?
I'll get to that. Well, in our days when we were in college, in graduate school, there were no PCs. The only computers you could use were mainframes. And so to do anything on the computer, you have to go to the computer center. They had the punch cards. You do your stuff, and then it comes out. So after I finished college, finished my PhD, and I started working, I think maybe about 2-3 years later, that was when the Apple and the IBM computers started coming up. And then, of course, Bill Gates left school to go and create the operating system for us, and the rest is history. Now, as an engineer, you cannot do anything without using computers. It's impossible.
Okay.
Because what happens is that, on the average, you are doing all kinds of analysis, simulations, calculations, which you cannot do with pen and pencil.
Right.
So on the average, you have to use computers. For example, a lot of the work that I did had to do with aircraft.
Okay.
On a typical aircraft, when you are on an aircraft, let's say flying from, let's say, London to Houston, we're talking about a 10-hour flight at least. During that 10-hour, the plane is flying at about 550 miles an hour, and it is being subjected to a lot of strong winds. And remember, it's got all these wings on its side, and the wings are really being shaken. So as an engineer, what we do is that we try to study the kind of materials that you can use to build the plane wings, such that the plane can be up there in the sky, and it is being stressed and shaking, and is flapping, and it still doesn't break. And one of the things we did was to, supposing you get a little crack, okay, in the wing of the plane. You don't want a situation where, while the plane is in the air, the crack is growing, it becomes so big, the wing falls off.
Okay.
So we come up with all kind of alloy materials that will give the plane the ability, even with a small crack in the wing, to be able to fly and fly for years. So to do all these simulations of crack growth rate, stress, cracking, and all those things, you need computers. So naturally, every engineer, by the nature of your work, you have to use computers a lot for what you do.
So that's what got you into
naturally, we were using computers, but those days we didn't have PCs. So as the PCs came along, we gradually moved some of our work to the PCs because it was more convenient. You didn't have to go all the way to the computer center or wait for your turn, for your work to be processed. So naturally, I became interested in computers. And then when the first wave of computers started coming, those IBM PC XTs and those kinds of things, we all got involved because we're using them in our labs for the work we were doing. And then gradually, I became so enthused by this new technology that my brother and I, my big brother went to MIT. He also did engineering, electrical engineering. We came together with a couple of friends and we said, look, why don't we set up an IT company in Ghana? Because computers were fairly new in those days. So that we can bring technology. This was about 88.
88, wow.
Yes, so that was when we came, but we didn't move back to Ghana. We all lived outside Ghana, but we set up the company in Ghana, and then we employ people to take care of the company. And then now and then, if any one of us comes to Ghana, you come and check on how things are going.
So you've been in private business for a long time.
For a long time.
88 till now, let's say 12 and 19, that's what, 31 years?
That's almost about 31 years,
wow.
Yes. So, so we set up advanced computer systems in those days, but we all stayed out. And then around maybe, I think 90 or so, my big brother decided to come down to Ghana to come and run the company.
When you were talking about the plane, the airplane and stuff, I was going to ask you why you came to Ghana, but it looks like you've answered a bit of it. But when you were talking about a plane and how you're using computer, I noticed the problem-solving nature of work back in the States. It's almost like the mentality is, here's a problem, we'll go all out to get a solution. Do you see that tradition here in Ghana?
Not really, because I've had a chance to be associated a little bit with the university in Ghana. Like when I was doing my PhD in engineering, everybody, your PhD was a problem from industry that they have brought the university to solve. So in a sense, you got funding. But in Ghana, for the average guy doing a PhD in university, it's not being funded by industry. You have to go and find funding, and they even charge you money and all that. But for example,
so you're just trying to get your grade to get your PhD,
well,
and
kind of, because like when I was doing my PhD, there was an organization in California called Electric Power Research Institute, and what they did was they brought together all the utility companies in the U.S., like the ECGs. They all come together and put money together and form this group. And what this group did was to take their problems and find solutions.
Okay.
So for my PhD, I was given one of these problems to solve.
Okay.
And so it was, so every month I have to send results of my work because they need the results to do stuff.
Yeah.
And the problem that we're having is that in power generation, anytime you're generating power, there's steam involved. Okay, you produce the steam either by burning oil or by burning gas. And then the steam, of course, drives a turbine.
Okay.
And once you have the steam, you have what we call stress corrosion cracking.
Yeah.
And what will happen is that the turbine sometimes can rupture. Of course, we also did work for aircraft engines. Aircraft engines have turbines.
Okay.
It's the same principle, and they can also crack.
Okay.
So as an engineer, you want to come up with the kind of material that can be used in this very high temperature, stressful environment.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
And do that. So in the US, all our PhDs were problems that industry have that we're trying to solve.
All right.
And you
so that brings me to something. I know I was speaking to Professor Kwabna from Pomboatin.
Yeah.
He's the Minister of Environment, Science, Technology, and Innovation.
Yeah.
I was speaking with him probably about 3 months ago, and he said something to the effect that Ghana is now going to allocate 1% of our budget to research. Up until now, we're spending 0.25% of our budget on research. So now, when you talk about funding PhDs to solve problems, maybe I've always thought that people just want to get by the education, write tests, and pass. But you raise a very good point. If there's no research funding to solve a problem, how do you solve the problem?
Well, there must be. And like in the US, of course, the federal government puts billions of dollars every year into research.
Yeah.
But at the same time, also, you've got industry that have got practical problems that they want to solve.
Right.
And normally they'll tend to investors and ask them to do it. I mean, what Professor Frimpong is talking about, I think is a really great idea. Now, if the government can really do that, it'd be fantastic.
Okay.
The only concern I have is that traditionally in Ghana, you know, I'm not sure if you're familiar with how things are done in Ghana. We have what we call the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research. This is an organization that is under his ministry, and they are charged with doing all kinds of research for the country's development. My only problem with the approach we adopt there and all that is we're spending too much time doing traditional research. Most of their research is in agriculture.
Okay. And we're still hungry.
And I'm sorry, I may sound a little bit different, but as an engineer, I think the government should divert a substantial amount of this research, and that will go to the investors themselves. Because the investors, if you look at the investors, the kind of research they're doing, to what extent is it impact on our development? Now, every single Ghanaian is holding a mobile phone. Is there an institution in Ghana doing research that has to do with the mobile phone?
Research?
They are doing research concern of cassava and plantain and that kind of stuff. I'm not saying don't do it.
But you know,
you get my point. But the direction the world is going.
Yes.
I mean, look at this studio.
Yeah.
The cameras. These days, these cameras, they don't even have cables anymore. The good old days, they go to a function outside, you see a long cable running. These days, they got Wi-Fi. You got antennas on the cameras. They run around in the public area covering an event, and they're broadcasting live just from the antennas on the cameras.
All right. Yeah, we're going to go on a quick break. When we come back, this conversation is going in a very, very good direction, in my opinion. I think research is something that we don't pay attention to. And when we come back, I'll ask the good doctor something that will probably be difficult for him to answer. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
My name is Novi.
The name is Phil.
Iman is the name.
Laugh.
And Len. biggest animal in the world?
King Kong.
What's the meaning of the I in iPhone?
iTunes.
What is Facebook?
It's a book that you say it on your face.
What is the last book of the Bible?
Methodist.
Your father is a landlord. What will you be?
Land commission.
House owner.
Land Rover.
What do we do at a grocery shop?
They play football.
Who is Santa Claus?
Teacher will check you.
Let me guess, you're probably wondering, another talk show? What could they possibly have to talk about?
Relationships, gossip, or entertainment?
What if we bring it all to you in the good, the bad, and the ugly way?
Yes, you heard that right. We're bringing you the latest stories from around the world and right here in Ghana. We come with our unique backgrounds and beliefs.
But when we come together,
we put all our wild thoughts and concerns on the table.
So sit back, relax, as we bring you
the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Welcome back. This is Diaspora Weekly with Jermaine and Nkrumah. My guest is Dr. Somuah with Cisco Information Systems. Doctor, we've spoken a lot about technology, research. Here's where I bring in the diaspora angle. How come you see this as clearly as possible, but someone in Ghana probably not have been exposed to other economies and societies before? They also hold PhD, but they don't see the problem from the perspective that you're seeing. Why do you think that is?
Well, part of the reason sometimes is experience. Having a PhD is not enough. By the time I came back to Ghana, I've spent a lot of my time in R&D, research and development, before I came to Ghana. So you come with solid experience on how to solve problems. Let's take currently Ghana's oil industry. I mean, that's the big talk these days. And yesterday on the news, the energy minister said they've awarded some lots to, I think, ENI, the Italian energy company, another company to explore for more oil. Now, with that technology, you can't find no oil. Or as we say in Texas, you can't find no oil. Okay?
Hey, quit making jokes about us Texans, okay?
You can't find no oil. But the point of the matter is that, yes, a person may have a PhD, but depending on the kinds of research he's had the chance to do, that comes then with the experience that he can contribute to either guide government policy or government direction. Okay? And I would like to put on the table that as we speak now, there are hundreds of Ghanaians with relevant experience in the diaspora who can contribute to all sectors of the economy. And let's just focus even on the energy. At least I know 2 Ghanaians in Houston. One has worked with ExxonMobil for 20 years. Now, this guy, at the time, he just retired from Houston, but of course, he's still pretty young and very strong.
What's his name?
Dr. Minta Moses.
Okay.
He used to be in Sugarland. He's moved to Missouri City now. Okay? Now, he worked in ExxonMobil for about 20 years. He has solid experience in the gas industry. Moses has worked in Qatar, in Japan, in Nigeria for ExxonMobil. And he had top experience. This is a guy, if the diaspora, the government says that want to bring
But wait, when
experts.
he comes, he's coming to take somebody's job, so they'll make it
He's
difficult
coming to give you advice. See, for example, I used to tell people that, look, if you put one of these guys on a board, you don't need to buy him a ticket. He can afford to buy a ticket to come for a meeting. You get my point? I mean, these are not guys who went to the U.S. the last 5 years. These are guys who have been in the U.S. for 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
I know Dr. I remember his name. He also worked with Mogul. He's still in Houston for about 30 years. Solid experience. Oil industry. And there's so many of them.
Oh, yeah.
And you can go to medicine. I'm talking about technology because technology is what we need to drive this country.
Yeah.
I'll put it on record. Look, if we're going to stick to agriculture and farming, we ain't going to make it. Cassava and plantain and that kind of stuff, you ain't going to make it. Because look at the whole country. How many people do you have in farming? And yet the total revenue from cocoa is about $2 billion.
You know, one time I was driving from Houston to Chicago. I got through Kansas thereabouts, right? We were driving on the road. All I heard was whoom, and I look up. It's an airplane that's flying this low, watering
the field.
The field.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about the farm is you can't see. It's like the sea.
As low as your eyes can.
How many people do you think it will take to weed that farm?
Thank you very much.
So you need technology.
Once
you put it down,
you need technology.
And that farm alone can feed Ghana.
And I mean, if I have my way, Dr. Frimpong Boateng's ministry should really be giving the support.
Yeah.
Because we need to introduce technology into a lot of things. Let me tell you something. Just last week, a friend of mine on Facebook wrote a long post on his Facebook page. He was so upset. Why? Because he is a young man, not even 40, maybe mid-early 30s. He has set up a small company to offer courier services in Accra. And then his motorcycle drivers get arrested. Why? Because apparently you're supposed to register your business if you want to do courier service for a government organization called Courier Commission or something. Postal and Courier Commission.
Okay.
Courier to deliver stuff. So he goes to their website. He thinks he can register it. He cannot register it. So he calls them on the phone. They say, and he asks them, what do I need to bring to register? They say, come to the office. No matter what he says, they say, and I'm not talking about last year. I'm talking about just a week, 2 weeks ago. So then he finally goes to the office. And then they give him a sheet of paper and a form to go and fill and bring it back. And his point and his anger was the fact that why can't I go online and fill the damn form and submit it and upload all the documents like you do for your 1040? I mean, who goes to the IRS office?
Some sectors now are doing that.
Of
I
course
was really impressed.
They are.
No,
I know.
Okay.
I know. I mean,
so
I have to know. And I know. I mean, like DVLA and a lot of places they are doing it. But the point I'm trying to say is that we need a lot of technology to transform the country.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm very passionate about that.
And that technology. So let's talk about technology. I mean, over there they make their own technology. Yeah. Over here, when we want to use technology, we have to buy it from them.
Yes.
But and the reason why I'm going back to this research and everything is that, look, if one thing that my friend told me. That is a problem-solving country. Over here, we pretty much manage the problems. I was looking at these numbers. Remember we said we were at 0.25% of our budget in research, and we're now moving to 1%.
1%,
okay.
yeah.
Right now, our economy, the size of our economy is 65 billion. All right? Now, United States size of economy is about 20494 billion, which is like
trillion.
20 trillion.
Yeah,
okay?
2 trillion, yeah.
And they use 2.74%. Now, 2.74% of 20 trillion versus 0.25% of 65 billion. Any wonder that our PhDs don't create anything?
Well, I'm not sure if it's a fair comparison because just like you said, their economy is much bigger, and therefore the National Academy of Sciences, National Institute of Health, all those organizations in Washington, D.C., they have a lot of money to give out. So definitely we can't be doing at the same level like them. Yes. But the important thing I think is for it to be strategic. Okay. And my personal view is that when it comes to technology, I don't think we need to spend a lot of time trying to invent new stuff.
Because others have invented.
It's been invented. Come on.
Okay. So then this brings me to this. You went to Tech, you said.
Yeah, from Tech.
When you were there, they had created this truck called, what was it, Obra or something? Do you remember? There was a vehicle that was manufactured.
Yes.
Do you remember the name?
I think that was after my time, but I used to read about it. Yes,
After your time.
Yeah.
Come on, don't let me ask you for your age, man.
Oh, please, come on.
Anyway,
the point about it is that I think I was out of the country at that
okay.
time. Yes.
Anyway, I'm saying that. So
when I was there, the most famous thing they were working on those days was traffic lights.
The traffic lights. Okay.
They were trying to create traffic lights to put in town. That was the most.
I'm sure
thing
these young men are just laughing. But anyway, I bring that to say that we are capable of creating just like everybody else.
Yeah.
But I think there's a combination of, well, a lack of resources and attitude, which is what I want to talk about.
I think attitude is more than resources. I don't think resources is an issue. It's more of attitude.
So it's attitude.
Yeah, attitude. Well, it depends on how you define attitude. But attitude in terms of leadership direction. For example, I always say, if I was the president of Ghana, I'll call the vice chancellor of Legon, KNUST, the head of CSR.
Big ones,
and as I'm giving you 1 year. I don't want a big tractor. I don't want a Ghanaian farmer to go to the farm and use cutlass to cut a tree. Just let's start with cutting trees. Because if you know how farming is done in Ghana, they weed and then they cut the trees. And they are still using the same hand and the cutlass.
Yeah.
Give them 1 year. If they can't get it down, get out.
Fire
somebody else take over.
Yeah.
Because I refuse to accept the fact that as a nation, if we put ourselves to the tax, we can't come up with some simple farming implements.
But when you fire them, there will be a chief who will put on their clothes to come and beg on their behalf.
That's another story. But my point is that we are a nation which is so much interested every time in going to Brazil to bring tractors, going to India to bring tractors. I mean, why can't we sit and say we are giving ourselves 2 years? We're going to produce one. It can be done. And to be honest with you, a couple of years ago, when I met the head of the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, I threw a challenge to him. I said, look, I'm an engineer by training. This is my area. This is my specialty. Put about 10 of us together and give us the challenge. We're giving you 2 years to produce. We will produce it. Manufactured in Ghana. You get my point. But it boils down to attitude in terms of what does the leadership foresee? Where do they see Ghana in the next 10 years?
You know,
you give my point. And do they still see us weeding with cutlasses?
See, okay. This conversation has taken on a whole different direction, but I'm happy we've done that. A friend of mine came in to do poultry, right? Okay. Raise chicken and right now, local poultry farmers are struggling. Why? Because the more you produce poultry in Ghana, the less some big fat guy is going to import. And so now there's a mafia that's controlling that. And when you go into any industry, it's like that. And so our production mentality is being inhibited by certain players in all fields.
Well,
this thing that you're talking about, tractors. Let's talk about tractors.
No, not talk about poultry.
If you manufacture
to practice, let's talk about poultry.
No, I'm saying if you manufacture tractors today,
yes,
the guy that's charged with procurement for tractors and everything, his
well, you see,
and they look at it from that
standpoint. You talk about attitude.
Yeah.
Luckily for me, when you talk about poultry, it's one area I know a little bit about. Why? Because my own brother, who was a PhD in electrical engineering, we were all in the IT company. So along the line, decided to go to poultry, and he became one of the big poultry farmers in the country. And he got to know so much about poultry that you think he has a degree in agri. But of course, what happened? I know that he had to get out.
Why?
Why? Because government policy did not favor the local producers. Those were the days, Blessed Mary, Major Kwashiga was the Minister of Agri in Kufuor's government. They had tons of meetings. They produced facts and figures to show him that, look, you are bringing poultry from the European Union, they are dumping it, it's highly subsidized. Come out with the right policy so that we can compete. Every time bureaucracy read a big English and all kinds of stuff. Eventually he got out of it. And all the people who were doing poultry with him went out. I mean, we all know when we were growing up, everybody knew Daku farms. By this time, Daku farms should be exploited the whole of Africa.
That's right.
I mean, the amount of effort, resources, and everything that he put into the poultry business. Daku farms should be so big, employing.
Okay, so what is Nigerian doing differently that now Dangote, cement manufacturer?
Well, it's policy.
It's policy.
It's policy. For example, I mean, I'm in the IT sector. I can give you an example from my sector. I produce products which are good for this country. I mean software. But you have government agencies who rather buy a foreign software. And the sad thing is that what they are buying is not as good as mine.
Okay.
You get my point? But government policy can say, wait a minute, if it is government money, we buy made in Ghana.
Right.
You get my point? Now, there's a difference between a minister making a statement and actually ensuring that it is being done. And that is where it goes back to the attitude thing.
Okay.
So
we're going to go on a quick break. When we come back, I'm going to ask you, we're going down to private business. How many people do you employ? Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hello, my name is Kofi Opon Ochre, and I bring you NASA on DNT, a program designed to expose corruption and indiscipline in our society and advocate for the punishment of these offenders whose activities impede national development. The National Road Safety Commission indicates that Ghana loses $230 million to road accidents, with over 1,600 deaths recorded every year. In 2018, Shraj report indicated that Ghana loses 13.5 billion Ghana cedis to corruption. And United Nations Children's Fund UNICEF has also stated that Ghana loses $290 million to poor sanitation alone. This is not right. So make a date with me, and together let's name and shame the offenders of the law. NASA, see something, say something.
Every weekday at 12 and 5 p.m., DNT Newsroom brings you the most topical, fact-based and up-to-date news from Ghana and around the world.
Politics, business, sports and news from the diaspora, all covered in this comprehensive news update.
If it matters, DNT Newsroom will have it covered.
DNT News, be informed.
Lock up Hello Entertainment Box.
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 Welcome back. This is Diaspora Weekly with Jermaine and Nkrumah. I have with me here Dr. Somuah, Chief Executive of Somuah Information Systems. Doctor, before we went on break, I ask you a question. How many people in all your businesses do you employ?
Well, currently, roughly, I have about a staff of 50.
50?
Spread between the financial services company and the IT services
50.
company.
So you, one person went to the United States, came back, and you're employing 50. All right. Here at DNT, we're around maybe 25, 30, thereabouts. So do you think the Ghana government aggressively pursues the likes of you and me? And what I mean by that is the Ghanaian national who has gone out and is looking to come back to do business. And we have a poll that says 60%, 60.3% of Ghanaians who abroad who are looking to come back want to be in private business. And yet, it seemed like our focus is mostly on the Turkish guys, the Canadians, the so-and-so. We roll out the red carpet to bring them in. Do you feel that you've been given that same red carpet to come back?
No, not at all. Not at all. We have to bring our own money, hard cash from outside, set up our own businesses. You have to send money every month to Ghana to pay salaries because they are not making enough revenue, you know, and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And we did that for a lot of years as we built the business up.
Yeah.
I mean, you live in the U.S. You realize that in the U.S., most people who are working are not working for the big companies like GM, Microsoft, and all that.
It's the SMEs.
It's the SMEs.
Yeah.
Most people are working in small companies.
Yes.
5 employees, 10 employees, 15 employees, that kind of thing. And my personal view is that it's the same thing we got to do in Ghana.
Yes.
And if we really want the economy to grow, we have to grow the private sector.
Yeah.
And the good news is that almost every government, especially this government, they have set up various mechanisms. They've got the Minister of Private Sector Development. They got the Ministry of trade and industry, and so many things just to grow the private sector, which I think is in the good direction. But going specifically to Ghanaians in the diaspora, I agree with you. I mean, the focus sometimes is on the big dollar investments.
Yeah.
So in a sense, we're chasing the Turkish, the Chinese, and all that, which is great. But they will come in and set up just 1 or 2 factories, and they might not even go into the interior areas where there's a lot of
and the first sign of problems, they're gone.
So my personal view is that GIPC needs to reorganize itself and ensure that it doesn't only focus on the big time investors, but they have a unit that really goes around the world talking to Ghanaians who want to relocate. Because half the time, some of the Ghanaians who want to relocate, they don't have enough information about the country. And unfortunately, we also don't have a good ecosystem where you could go online and get all kinds of information about the country. So I think if they did this kind of thing, there are a lot of Ghanaians who can easily come and invest like $50,000 and start a business.
Oh yeah,
you give me a point.
And to your point,
and employ maybe 10 Ghanaians.
Yeah, to your point,
you know, that would be great.
To your point, if you're a Ghanaian national, you live in America, you bring in $100,000, and your turnaround, your margins, whatever business you're into, your margins is 10%, 12%, right?
Yeah.
The intrinsic satisfaction of knowing that you're doing something for your country is an added. It makes up for another 9%.
I agree.
The Turkish guy is not going to come here for a margin of 12%.
No.
Okay.
He wants more than
and at the end of the day, it is the same. If a dollar is sitting here, it doesn't have Turkey written on it, Israel written on it, or Ghana written on it. So why is it? Do you think that they pursue those other guys more aggressively than us?
Well, I think it's a matter of tradition. I mean, if they make you the head of GIPC today, you go in there, the stuff you are going to meet, the people you are going to meet, you're going to work with people. And that's the kind of the way we've been doing business all these years.
Yeah.
So between the leadership and government policy, I think we can change some of these things. But otherwise, traditionally, they're looking for these big-time investments, which is great. I mean, it's wonderful. But if you look at it, most countries, most people are not working for these big companies.
No.
Give my point.
Why pursue Toyota or Hyundai to build a plant here when you already have Kantanka here?
Good question. Good question. I mean, I would say they bring different levels of
expertise
to the market, you know. But at the same time, Kantanka is an excellent opportunity to. I mean, I will not even aspire to make SUVs and all that. Let's make simple implements. You get my point. Take a lawnmower. Can you imagine that I finished engineering over 30 years ago in Ghana? We don't even make a lawnmower in Ghana. You get my point?
Why?
What is a lawnmower?
Yeah.
It's just a little engine with an attachment which produces motion.
Okay.
You get my point? And so what that means therefore is that, for example, you have some of the polytechnics doing nothing but teaching people how to make small engines.
So we've been speaking now for about 35 to 40 minutes, and it looks like most of what we've talked about centers around policy. What do you think about policy and development in this country? I mean, we're developing. If I go out and if I'm road minister, I'm supposed to build roads. If I'm housing, build house. But what is our policy tradition in Ghana? How do you see it?
Well, luckily for me, since I've been back in this country, I've had the chance to work in the public sector. I was in President Kufuor's government as a policy analyst. I focused mainly on IT policy and technology policy. And it was when I was there that I came in and realized we didn't even have a national policy on IT.
Look at that.
So I'm proud to say that I led the effort and worked with a lot of Ghanaians in the diaspora in those days to come up with a national policy on IT. And since then, it's gone through different transformations and on and on. And just about a month and a half ago, the vice president hosted a 2-day workshop at Labadi Beach, in which they are even trying to improve upon it. They are calling it the digital roadmap for Ghana Beyond 8. So policy is very, very important. And having worked in the president's office, we worked with various ministries to ensure that whatever project government wants to do, whatever activity it wants to do, it has gone through rigorous policy analysis, looking at the impact on different sectors of the economy and all the linkages and relationships with different sectors of the economy. So, I mean, if there's one thing I think every government needs to focus a lot on is policy.
But some will call it book long.
Well, fine, you might call it book long, but I mean, it's like when you take your car to the mechanic sometimes. I've had the experience of taking my car to the mechanic, and they tell me that, Master, where the table couple. And I said, well, so you had it direct. Okay? And I said, why? He said, oh, sign a year. Now, when I went to school as an engineer, I was taught something they call MBTF, mean time between failure. What that means is that when an engineer creates a piece of object, he can predict that this thing is going to work for the next 5 years, and after that it will break down. That's why they ask you to change your oil every 3 months. Now, the thermocouple in your car is supposed to sense the temperature of the water going through the engine. When the water gets too hot, then the fan in front of the radiator, the fan will come on, provide additional cooling, and then the temperature will drop. And then when the thermocouple senses the temperature, then the fans will stop working. Okay? So the fan is not been designed to rotate all the time. When the Ghanaians remove the thermocouple and make it direct, the fan never stops.
Yeah.
It's always blowing.
Exactly.
You get my point? Now, as an engineer, I've given it a mean time between failure of about 20,000 revolutions.
Yes.
This is about 5 years.
Yes.
After which you must change the fan.
Right.
But before you know, every 1.5 years, you have to change the fan.
You change it
so
because it's on all the time. Yeah.
And book long. But there's a reason for policy.
Yes. And you see, I agree
because
with you.
Without the right kind of policy, you're going to go, get to halfway. You realize that everything you did was wrong.
Okay, so here's what the politics. You and I, when we were growing up, we grew up amidst military coups and everything, and we were all praying for democracy. Now we've got democracy. Let me tell you what the politician is facing. You and I, who understand policy, we constitute probably what 1.5% of the population.
Yeah, pretty small.
Good. The people who don't understand the policy, who call policy book long, they're the majority.
Yeah.
And they have one vote just like you and I do.
Correct.
You're a politician.
Yeah.
You're talking to me about policy.
Yeah.
These people are hungry. They don't understand. Who should I listen to?
You see, this is why I've always said that if I were to be in leadership in this country, you need 3 strategies. You need one strategy for those people who are hungry so that they will always vote for you. You've got the multilateral agencies, the World Bank, IMFs, all those guys. They are also looking for something in this country. And you need a strategy to make them happy. And they need a third strategy that these 2 people don't care about. But that is what's going to develop the country.
Exactly.
Okay? Now, you know these people who are hungry and they are talking, and you know what they need and what they want from you. So you find a way to meet their needs. But behind you...
But don't ignore the other... That's what you're saying.
You, but while you are taking care of them, because they are going to vote for you in 4 years' time.
Right.
So you can't ignore them. But while you are taking care of them, you've got a strong caliber of people coming off policy. I was talking to you about the fact that during Kufuor's time, we went to Malaysia. When we went to Malaysia, Mahathir has just... no, he was still there. He was still president, I think, prime minister at that time. And we wanted to study, because, you know, we always hear the story, Malaysia and Ghana were the same. You know, everybody's talking about it, which is true. Okay? And boom. And they are way ahead of us. I mean, if you go to Kuala Lumpur, it's a different place.
I know.
So we went to Malaysia to find out, how did you guys run your country that you got to this one? And then, if you remember the Asia financial crisis, I think in the 90s or so, where Malaysia came on top, and a lot of the Asian countries, Vietnam, Cambodia, China, everybody went down, because Malaysia was the only country that refused to take the World Bank advice. So when we went to Malaysia, and Mahathir showed us, we went to Mahathir's cabinet office, and they showed us how they run the country. Policy analysis, full stop. Everything is policy, 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 policy. Because they tried to come out of the council policy which they think will move Malaysia forward. At the same time, remember, 4 years and have an election. So you have to do a few things that to keep the population happy. But that policy that will move the country forward, you can't. You got to move forward.
Very good.
That is why I'm saying they came for palm oil from us. They're doing 5 billion. We are not even doing 1 billion.
Good. We're going to go on a short break. This conversation, it's meat for me. But we have to go on a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk about what we bring to the table that's different from those at home. Stay tuned.
Hello, this is Nanasa, and you're watching Homeland, the Story of the Returnee, where we dive into the perspective of the diaspora in and out of Ghana. It's fun, engaging, and motivational.
I think Ghana is a wonderful place. I love Ghana. I truly do.
We need our diasporans for our country to develop to where it should be.
Hey! Come on, turn around. Turn around, let me see.
Make a date with me right here on DNT every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Homeland. Brain drain, brain gain.
Hello, my name is Kofi Upon Ochre, and I bring you NASA on DNT, a program designed to expose corruption and indiscipline in our society and advocate for the punishment of these offenders whose activities impede national development. The National Road Safety Commission indicates that Ghana loses $230 million to road accident, with over 1,600 deaths recorded every year. In 2018, Shraj report indicated that Ghana loses 13.5 billion Ghana cedis to corruption. And United Nations Children's Fund UNICEF has also stated that Ghana loses $290 million to poor sanitation alone. This is not right. So make a date with me, and together let's name and shame the offenders of the law. NASA, see something, say something.
Welcome back. This is Diaspora Weekly with Jermaine and Chroma. Doctor, this conversation has gone all the way, and we're back to how we got started. Look, when you look around this studio, I've got my cameraman right there, 2 of them. I've got producers in there. These guys I'll take to war anytime, any day, because they're good at what they do. But none of them have traveled outside Ghana before. So as we diasporans are saying, okay, bring in the diaspora, are we putting too much effort into what is different? What do we bring in that folks at home don't have?
Knowledge and experience.
And experience.
Yeah. I mean, like, until Uber came to Ghana, the average Ghana didn't know about Uber. But if you live in Houston, Uber is there. You get my point. And there are so many technologies. For example, these days when you travel to the airports in the US, the good old days, you stand in line, you go to a ticket counter, you stand in line, the person takes your ticket, your pass. No. These days, they got terminals. You just go to the terminal, you put your passport in, it scans your passport, whatever, it spews out the boarding pass. It spews out even the luggage tag. And then you go to the place and you drop your luggage. Now, if the advantage the diasporans bring is that because the West and the rest of the world is leading in terms of technology and advancement, the minute you have lived there for years, you bring certain knowledge and experience which is not available in this country, which can be used to transform this economy.
Good. So let me make this point clear. We are not saying we're smarter than those at home.
No,
that's not it.
No,
if anybody missed the point,
that's where we started.
Exactly.
We were here and then we went away, so we can't be smarter than them. We are part
exactly.
of them. We are part of them.
But what you're saying is the perspective, what we've been exposed to over a long period of time. When you bring that, that's what we're talking about.
Yes, that's what we're talking about.
But some will also say that this terminal that you're talking about, you go in there.
Yeah.
If I've never gone anywhere before and I'm a government official, I travel to America, I come back, I've seen it. So why can't I? What? Now I've seen it. You've seen it. So what's the difference?
There's a big difference between seeing it and
living it.
Thank you very much. I was looking for that word. You get my point. Because not only will you have had a chance to travel through the airport so many times, but you have gone to so many places where similar technologies are in use.
Yes.
And as I said, the whole idea of technology is to be efficient in what you do. and to do it smarter. You give me a point, because otherwise, something that's going to take someone an hour to do, you're going to take a whole day to do.
Yeah.
Okay. And currently, if you are abreast with technology and all that, between artificial intelligence and all these things, the world is being transformed.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sure you're following the story about Tesla cars and autonomous driving.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, the time is
but
coming.
that one is going to take people's jobs, though. Drivers, what are we going to do?
That's the difference. You see, that's the difference. I mean, over the years, the thing has been that technology will displace people. But
it actually adds more.
It adds more. As technology comes, we find ways of doing other things.
Yes, yes.
You get my point? So, but the point of the matter is that we bring a different perspective from diaspora because we have certain deep experience which does not exist in this country.
Let me paint a scenario for you.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's say you live you're in Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah.
You're in a residential area.
Yeah.
Let's say, okay, you're not the wife-beating type, but argument come and you struck your wife.
Yeah.
The person, your next door neighbor, is a police officer. He's gone to work. He's on the beat.
Yeah.
Your wife calls the phone, beep, and they dispatch that call to him. He's your next door neighbor.
Yeah.
You go to his party, he comes to your party.
Yeah.
He's the one who responded to the call.
Yeah.
He comes to the house and there's evidence that you've struck your wife. What will he do?
At that point, there's nothing like friendship. There's nothing like human neighbor. He's going to go straight according to the book.
And handcuff you.
And take you away. And you can go drink beer when you come out of jail. You get my point. But that's the difference.
Yeah.
Because over there...
Would that happen here?
I don't know. I've never had this kind of experience in here. But sometimes it might not happen here because of our culture. Part of it is our culture. Part of it is our culture. You give a point. You kind of run away from that.
Yeah.
I mean, we've heard stories. I remember when I was in Columbus, it was so famous. The mayor was caught around 2 a.m. driving. He was half drunk.
There you go.
And they arrested him. And he ran the city.
Yeah.
You give a point. I mean,
oh, wait, the mayor.
The mayor of Columbus.
He ran the city.
He ran the city.
Appointed the police chief.
He appointed the police chief. In Ghana, the mayor doesn't even appoint the police chief.
Okay.
You give a point. Over there, he appoints the police chief.
Yes.
The police chief reports to him. But the mayor, he was arrested by the police.
By the police?
Yes, because he was driving drunk at 2 a.m. in the morning. You give a point. And the thing is that that's the kind of different perspective.
And so
we
after
bring.
you've seen this over and over again, I remember this famous PLO leader, Arafat.
Yes, Arafat.
I remember he came to United States to visit with President Clinton at the time. And they were talking about Middle East peace. Very important stuff. They had some kind of breakthrough. So they come out to do a press conference to announce the big thing.
The big thing, yeah. The Camp David thing.
Yes, and guess what was the trending news? Monica Lewinsky. Every single question had to do with Monica. And I looked at Monica, Arafat's face, and he was standing there like, are these people crazy? but the reason why I bring that is, when you live in an environment where the mayor gets arrested, the president cannot kiss the person who worked for him. You've lived it. You said something about seeing it and living it are two different. When you go through all this and then when you come back here, is that the perspective that you're saying you bring that a Ghanaian doesn't have?
Well, to a certain degree, yes. I mean, take work ethics. You give me a point. If you've lived in the West, you know the work ethics over there. I mean, there's nothing like it's training, so I'm late.
Yeah.
We don't buy that.
Yeah.
You know, unless a snow emergency is declared in Ohio, you go to work.
Yeah.
Okay. But here, you know, a small drizzle and the guy might say, I'm not coming. So what we do is that one of the things those of us in diaspora bring to the job is we bring some of this work ethics.
Okay.
You know, I remember when I was working at the president's office, we brought some of these things in the way we went about our work and that kind of thing. And then you try to pass some of this on.
Yes.
So that even if the person came from a background where they didn't have very strong work ethics, integrity and some of those things, you help them cultivate.
So with the folks who work for you, if it comes to a point where they're no longer working for you and they go work somewhere else, what do you think the biggest thing they will take with them from you?
Knowledge and experience. I mean, over the years, some of my staff used to say that we are a training school. Why? Because we are always being pushed. They're always pushing our staffs.
Yeah.
Always pushing our staff. Because what we do is that we develop our staff very, very well. They are very knowledgeable. I'm talking about the IT side. And so quite often when someone leaves us, you know, they get a good job. I remember several years ago, one of our staff went for an interview at the World Bank. Just picked her just like that.
There you go.
Because she was so knowledgeable. And I mean, they just picked her just like that. You know, and she's still working there after about 20 years.
Okay.
So it's the knowledge and experience that we bring.
Very good. So you came back. You've worked at the public sector and you worked at the private sector. What are the difference in experience?
Well, I find the private sector a little more exciting and challenging.
Exciting.
Yes. For the simple reason that you're trying to do your own thing. I mean, the public sector, you're working to some bureaucrats, working the bureaucracy.
You want to tell me you get a job that gives you an SUV, a driver, and a second, and that's not exciting.
Well,
but when you're working on your own, you're struggling to pay your bills, that's more exciting.
If you just want to be satisfied with the status quo, then maybe an SUV is a big thing. But of course, if you come to the private sector, you can work and buy.
Yeah.
You give me a point. That's nothing. But the excitement is the fact that, especially since I'm a technology guy, is being able to stay abreast with technology and use it to solve problems.
Yes.
When I was with this guy this week and we're talking about computer selection. That was a problem we solved for the government years ago. Why? Because when people are going from SS to GHS to secondary school, they sit around a table and then they look at the cards. In fancy film is sitting here, this adult headmaster is sitting here, and on and on and on. And then they look at the cards and they select and they give the. I mean, it was a mess.
Okay.
And then we came up with technology, which allowed the computer to do the selection for the government. Give them a point. So. Yes, the private sector, I think, is more exciting.
So now, you had a chance to do public and private, and you've chosen private. So your final advice to Ghana, whoever is listening that's in government that has to do with policy, what is your suggestion? What's your advice to policymakers with regards to private sector in this country?
Well, I think the kinds of policies that the government makes have a big impact on the private sector. Because if... for example, whatever tax policy the government comes up, if the government is taxing you too much, it affects your business. If paying your taxes is even not that easy, it affects your business. You know, even as of today, you have to get in the car, drive to the office of the GRA to go and pay your taxes, which I find absolutely ridiculous. But I think government should pay a lot of importance to policy, and policy demand the best brains. You know, government should ensure that, and this is where sometimes some of the diaspora guys come in, because the diaspora guys are coming with solid experience that you can tap into to make some of your policies. And I think we are seeing the effect of it in the current administration, where the vice president is doing a lot and working with a lot of these guys in the diaspora.
Well, we're going to wrap it up today, but the closing advice is that government should look at policy that affects the private sector. Why is that necessary? In the United States, the percentage of every formal employer, anyone who draws a paycheck, who works in a formal sector, only about 16% work for the government at all three levels, federal, state, local. In Ghana, I don't know what that percentage is, but if Ghana is going to go to the next stage, the private sector is the engine of economic growth. It employs more people. And when you come to private sector, based on what Dr. Somuah submitted earlier, it's not the big guys, not the big conglomerates that employ most of the remaining 84%, but it's the SME, small, medium enterprises. And so if you're listening, the government should do more to work towards the policies that positively impacts private sector players in a small, medium-sized arena. And you will find that most of these guys have the capital and the experience and the exposure coming from the diaspora. This has been Diaspora Weekly. My guest has been Dr. Somuah. Thank you so much for being with me.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.